Now I'm very excited to welcome back a college basketball savant, as well as the editor and host of the Vegas Sports and Information Network, and Mr. Matt Youmans from VSiN Live and at VSiN.com. You can follow Matt on X at Matt Youmans247. Matt, just like that, man, it almost feels like you're just here talking at the end of football. We are in tournament week. How is your week going for you?
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's one of the if you love college hoops, this is one of your favorite weeks of the year, if not your favorite week of the year. I know Thursday and Friday, the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament, my favorite 2 days on the sports betting calendar ahead of the Super Bowl. I've had people ask, does it get any better than Super Bowl Sunday in Vegas? Yeah, it does. Thursday and Friday this week, it gets better. I mean, it's so hectic that if you're a serious bettor, you might be better off not being in Vegas on Thursday and Friday because you need some peace and quiet. You got to focus on the games, and it's complete chaos out here Thursday and Friday. But I love it. Got most of my bets in already. Obviously, we'll be betting live and firing some other stuff here later in the week. But yeah, I love college hoops, and this week is as good as it gets. And there's no better place to be than Circa, downtown Las Vegas, biggest sports book in the world. VSiN studio right next to it, and Stadium Swim out back, and that's one of a kind. We just spent Saturday conference championship week last Saturday at Stadium Swim. It was only about 65 degrees, but the sun came out. I mean, that's the best spot to watch games.
It is the best spot to enjoy games. And obviously, if you need your phone or your live apps, maybe a different place is more important for the first 2 days. That brings me to my first question. Where are you going to watch the majority of the NCAA tournament? I imagine you're going to work through some of it, and that's kind of part of your job anyway, but where are you going to watch it?
Yeah, we'll see. We're on the air. At least I'm on shows 4 to 8 p.m. Thursday night, Friday night, and otherwise I'll be at Circa most of the week. There's no better place to be. I mean, that's a great office. I've worked in a couple crappy offices over the years where you have a little cubicle and a desk and a computer. It gets no better than working at Circa, where you show up to work at a casino like that. I watch most of the games there. I also watch, if I've got big bets on something or games I take more seriously than others, I might be at home watching it in the quiet, away from people, where I can focus on the game and focus on live betting and not be distracted by Twitter and people texting you every 2 minutes about what's going on in the games. So yeah, I watch some games at home. I'll probably stop by the Westgate Superbook as well, South Point, to see Jimmy, Benny, and Chris. Obviously the Red Rock too. Those are my favorite sports books in Vegas. I don't really, even though I live right on the Strip, I don't really hang out at the Strip sports books here for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's too crazy there, I feel, and just too much. I think people just drink a little too much before they do stupid stuff, and I don't need to get involved with any of that either. I think that the sports books you mentioned would be the only places I would watch it, minus my home, or a pretty good sports bar where it's not too packed, but you got all the games. You're not paying for a seat. You're sitting for free, basically, just ordering beers. Yeah. Not a huge difference because everybody there's got a bracket, or nowadays here in AZ, lots of betting going on anyway. So you can have fun as long as you make it smart, and that's my plan. Watch a lot of it at home, multiple TVs, couple tablets. And then after that, maybe sneak out to the local Blue 32 sports bar for a little bit with a buddy or two and kind of share that time a little bit. But, the problem is right when this Thursday's games get done, I got to get right to the Saturday games and start studying up on those matchups too. So the madness really does not end for us, Matt. Well, let's pivot to the committee then. What do you think about their job? And I know you probably had talked about it quite often already, but I mean, I've kind of gotten some back and forth from people on how the committee did. I like to hear it from you and see what you have to say.
Well, the committee makes a bunch of clumsy mistakes every year. I don't know what they're doing in there half the time. It's not that difficult of a job. And then they manage to screw up some of the easiest things year after year. I'm just going to talk about it briefly, and we'll move on to more important topics. But Michigan is a 5 seed. Michigan just beat Purdue, Maryland, and Wisconsin, who all got better seeds in the Big Ten tournament. Was the committee sleeping through the Big Ten tournament? Did it not matter at all? If you look at the Big Ten standings and then see that Michigan won the conference tournament, how is Michigan a 5 and seeded worse than those other teams, especially Purdue? Look, I'm a Purdue guy, but that team's fading fast and 3-6 in the last 9 games and just lost by 18 to Michigan. How's Purdue a 4 seed and Michigan a 5? How is Oklahoma a 9 seed? Oklahoma went 6-12 in the SEC. I don't care how difficult you say the conference is, and we all know how good it is top to bottom. You're 6-12. You're not a 9 seed. So hopefully UConn drives that point home as an 8 seed in that matchup. And, the AP poll, take it for what it's worth, and I don't take it for being worth a lot, but Louisville is number 8 in the AP poll and a number 8 seed in its region. I mean, Louisville's got to be better. Got to be better than an 8 seed, right? Got to deserve a better seed than that. Anyway, I could go on and on, but there's no point now. We're just trying to break down the matchups and pick winners.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's find some weird. I mean, like I said before, when you see North Carolina in, it's hard to keep arguing how with people that sports are inadvertently rigged. What the hell was that? It wasn't clumsy. It was on purpose, and maybe it was money, but it's the BS after watching the NFL, and you get this. This is getting absolutely utter ridiculous. And either way, we're going to watch games because we love it, but it always brings things into question about integrity, and I hate seeing that. And hopefully you get some real people stopping this someday. I don't know how you do it, but it's when the committee chair is literally the director at their university, and their team gets in it for one win, one top tier win. It's absolutely a travesty. But we don't need to dwell on it.
Quick comment about North Carolina. I was going to avoid that, but I tell you, Bubba Cunningham is the selection committee chair, North Carolina athletic director you're talking about. He has a clause in his contract, I'm sure you've seen, where he got a bonus of 6 figures if North Carolina makes the tournament, 68-team field. I think it was $100-some thousand. How can that clause be in his contract and he is the selection committee chair? That right there is a huge conflict of interest. That should never happen. If you want to talk about the committee being crooked, you're going to start there and say something doesn't look right. That should never happen where he has that clause in his contract that the team makes the tournament and he gets a huge bonus and he's the selection committee chair. That's terrible. That's bad business. You want to talk about the integrity of the game? That's as bad as it gets. And
it's
then
it's insider trading. Really, it's insider trading like that.
Right. I'm not going to go berserk like a lot of people are about Carolina making the tournament and it's the worst thing ever. And here's why. If you put Carolina on a neutral against a bunch of other teams that made the tournament that were on the bubble, Carolina would be the favorite. So we always talk about putting an odds maker on the committee when we're talking about college football playoffs and things like that. So I'm not sure San Diego State should be in the field, but North Carolina is a 4.5-point favorite on a neutral. If Indiana had made the tournament, North Carolina would probably be a favorite. I know it would be a favorite over Indiana on a neutral. If West Virginia made the tournament, maybe the same. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that Carolina made the tournament. I do think it's terrible that the selection committee chairman, the North Carolina athletic director, has that bonus in his contract when the team makes it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that should be investigated because it's a market and it is an insider type situation. And what you said is like, then why then they can't use that excuse all these years? Oh, they only have one top quadrant win. What you've been using that excuse to keep teams out forever. Now, so that's the problem, really. And yeah, of course, if we go by KenPom and Bart Torvik and Haslametrics and all the great sites, then a lot of teams would make it. But you can't just make up your own rules to get your way. Let's move on to some Cinderellas then. And I'm curious. I love how you pick dogs. You're very similar to what I like too. I'm guessing you have some sort of Cinderellas in the Sweet 16. And I guess when I say Cinderella, let's say it's got to be maybe a 10 seed or higher.
Okay.
I don't know if you got that, but I do.
That's not going to happen. I'll tell you, I've in the past, I have had some Cinderellas Like in 2000, was it 9 or 10? I had Butler going to the championship game, and Butler actually got there and lost to Duke. But I don't see much here. And I try to pick up sets, and I try to advance teams I think can underdog type of teams I think can go far. I've got Mississippi, which is a 6 seed in the Sweet 16. So I got Ole Miss eventually falling to Auburn in the Elite Eight. I have BYU, which is a 6 seed, going to the Elite Eight. I have McNeese, which is a 12 seed, going to the Sweet 16. And Xavier, which is in the first 4, going to the Sweet 16. So I've got Xavier and McNeese as double-digit seeds going to the Sweet 16. BYU, Ole Miss, or the next highest seeds I got, but kind of a chalky bracket. I disappointed myself with the bracket. Probably disappoint other people with having so many favorites, but I don't see many Cinderella teams after the ones I just mentioned that could go very deep in this tournament. North Carolina State never made that run last year. North Carolina State made the run to the Final Four a year ago. That team should not even have made it through the ACC tournament. A lot of times you see runs like that, and it's a complete fluke. You remember when Florida Atlantic made the run to the Final Four, Dusty May, and some of those players who are now spread out around college basketball, like Vlad Golden, Elijah Martin. You go, Florida Atlantic should have lost to Memphis in the first game of that tournament. In the final minute, Memphis turned it over a couple times. There was a terrible call that went against Memphis. Florida Atlantic should have lost that game and ended up going all the way to the Final Four. So there could be a fine line between success and embarrassment in the NCAA tournament. And you got plenty of examples there. Rick Pitino said, was about 10 days ago, he said, we can lose in the first game or we can go to the Final Four. And I feel like that's true for a lot of teams here.
Yeah, I agree. And if you think yours is chalky, I hate to say it, wait to see mine. But you did mention a team or two. You said McNeese and Xavier. So there you go. You have 2 of those in your Sweet 16. I actually have McNeese playing High Point in the round of 32, and I have High Point getting to the Sweet 16. So it looks like we're looking at little upsets, me and you, in that area. But I mean, that's my only one. I do also have Ole Miss getting to the Elite Eight as well. I have that, but otherwise I don't have 2. I have mostly chalk, and that brings us to the Final Four. Matt, this is the first time I've ever done this. My wife does it every year. She actually took second last year. I have all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four, Matt, and I hate myself for it, dude. I hate myself for it because this is not me. I'm the guy that's always taken the 3 seed or the 5 seed or something fun. And I just love how Auburn, who's the team that's been like the most susceptible, getting an Iowa State side when they're beat up, a Michigan State that probably should be a 2 seed. I think they've been a little fugazi all year. You got a Michigan team that is completely turnover prone. I just think that their draw is just so easy. And then Houston, I was a little bit more down on them than I should have been, but I think that they got a very favorable 2 seed with Tennessee because Tennessee does not have a lot of offense. I like Alabama a lot more than Tennessee in general. And then I think I have Duke and Florida as the best teams. I have Florida and Duke as the best 2 teams in basketball. So unfortunately, I fell on 1 seeds, and I feel dirty for it.
Yeah, 4 1 seeds have only made the Final Four one time. It was 2008, and that was in San Antonio, and that's where the Final Four is this year. So maybe that symmetry will work out for you. Like you said, I'm embarrassed. I've got 2 1 seeds and 2 2 seeds in the Final Four. I've got Auburn, St. John's, Duke, and Tennessee. I don't even like Tennessee. St. John's is more of a bet because I've got St. John's 80-1 to win the whole thing. I played that last summer, and I'm really rooting for St. John's. Hey, it's a 30-4 team with the 4 losses by a total of 7 points. It's number 1, Red Storm number 1 in defensive efficiency at KenPom.com. And I like the St. John's team of Rick Pitino. It feels like it's kind of his year. But Florida, I mean, it's a bummer that Florida and St. John's are in the same region. In the West, I've got Florida at 10-1. Those are two of my favorite futures, and both teams are in the same region. So that sucks as far as that goes. I've got Duke at 10-1. I've got Duke winning the tournament. I've not been a big believer in Houston, not a big believer in Michigan State. So I got those teams getting knocked off. But, yeah, I'm disappointed I've got 2 1s and 2 2s. But if you're trying to win a bracket contest, that's also sometimes how you have to play it. So the way you're betting the games and the way you play a bracket contest is a little bit different.
Yeah,
a lot different.
I think when you said that when all 4 1 seeds made it, my wife, of course, won it that year because she had all 4 1 seeds, and now she's like, "Well, you copied me." I told her she didn't fill one out yet, and I said, "Sorry, I fell on them." But yeah, I'm embarrassed. But there you go. You got 2 1s and 2 2s, so it's like I do feel it's a chalky tournament. It's going to make it really interesting in Survivor this year as well. Let's talk some of the big games then, shall we? Thursday, why don't we start just kind of play, pass, anything you want to say? We can sake of time, we can pass. Start with Creighton versus Louisville. Louisville minus 2.5, total 145.5 at Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky. Do you have anything on this one?
Let's see. I'm just going to tell you what bets I have on Thursday. How about that? Because if we run down these games, it's going to take forever. We tried this on our show Sunday night. It takes a lot more time than you think to run through every game because you start talking about them. You go 2 or 3 minutes. Before you know it, I'll be late for work today. So here we go.
Let's do it then. Let's do it. Absolutely.
I'll tell you what I've got. I played McNeese State. These are Thursday games. McNeese plus 7.5. I got High Point at plus 9. I'd still play it at 8. It opened as high as 10. I didn't get to 10. Arkansas plus 4.5, but I really don't like that bet that much because it looks like Arkansas is going to be down. Thero, I think he might be out. Maybe I'll play Kansas back on the money line, shoot for a little middle there, just kind of get off the bet. But I didn't put out, in some of the public stuff I didn't put out Arkansas, I don't think, as a play because now I'm kind of backing off that one. All right. I got UCLA on the money line. I laid $2 on UCLA to beat Utah State. We can talk a little bit about some of these when I get done. Also on Thursday, I got Georgia plus 6 against Gonzaga. I played smaller bet Drake plus 6.5 against Missouri. I don't know what I'm going to do with UC San Diego and Michigan because it feels like that's a bunch of sharps like UC San Diego, at plus 3 or 3.5 when it opened. And the public is just pile driving Michigan at minus 2.5, thinking that's such a cheap price on a Big Ten tournament champ against a Big West team where 98% of the public bettors couldn't name one player for UC San Diego and probably didn't watch the Big West championship. I think that's one of the most fascinating games of the first round, but I have not bet it yet. I did play Yale plus 7.5 against A&M. I've got BYU minus 2 against VCU. And Montana plus 17.5 against Wisconsin. That's what I've got so far for Thursday.
All right. Well, no, that's you're in a lot of the same that I am. And real quick, I have an issue with this with the number on you. And it's like I said 2 weeks ago. Everyone's going to be on. Doesn't matter who UC San Diego is going to play. Everyone's going to be on UC San Diego, but now you're saying the public might be on Michigan here. So I have to look at that a little bit. It's like, what do you call trendy? Do you call trendy when guys like us all like UC San Diego all year, or is it like just general public is trendy? I mean, that's an interesting question because I have trouble with this game myself. Michigan is playing in elevation. They got tall guys that I don't know how. I mean, they're a fast-paced team, but this is different in elevation. You got UC San Diego that can hawk the ball. I mean, right now I'm looking at Action Network, and it says 50-50 on the money, 50-50 on the side. 20,745 tickets in registered. It's like perfectly split almost. I don't know what to do with this one, man.
Well, I saw a BetMGM report that Michigan is the most bet team at their sports book. So that's public, right?
That's definitely a public book for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. And
so I will say that this is kind of a disturbing trend for Big Ten teams. Let's go back last 4 years. Illinois and Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game a year ago. Badgers bounced early. Illinois got knocked out by UConn in that 30-0 run that the Huskies put together in that game. Previous year, Purdue won the Big Ten tournament. We know what happened there. Purdue got upset as a 1 seed. 2022, Iowa beat Purdue. Iowa got knocked out in the first round. 2021, Illinois beat Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament championship game. And was it Ohio State got upset by Oral Roberts, and Illinois, I think, won his first round game by 1 point. The point here is when you play 3 games in 3 days or 4 games in 4 days in tournaments like the Big Ten or the SEC. You remember last year, Auburn won the SEC tournament, gets knocked out in the first round by Yale. I think a lot of times it's a negative. That's what we're kind of looking at here. Maybe you want to fade Michigan for playing 4 games or 3 games in 3 days. Wisconsin just played 4 games in 4 days. And that's part of the reason I'm playing the dog against the Badgers in that game. Wisconsin shot 7 for 39 from 3, and John Tanji couldn't hit a shot. And the Badgers played 4 games in 4 days. Now they're going to play in altitude, right? So I think one of the things you're looking at is trying to fade those teams in the major conference tournaments that played a bunch of games in a row. And there's history there behind the Big Ten tournament finalists flopping, really struggling to win in the first round. So that's one thing I'm looking at. I've been a proponent of UC San Diego the entire season. This team can really shoot the 3. They got multiple guys who can knock down 3s. The problem is Vlad Golden is going to be a matchup issue for the Tritons. I'm not sure they can defend him in the paint. Danny Wolf is another big guy, but he doesn't really play like it. He drifts around and shoots a lot of jumpers. Golden is going to be the guy. I think Michigan's got to ride if the Wolverines are going to win that game. Anyway, I'm a little bit torn on that one.
I'm too. I think in my bracket, I feel like San Diego would be the one that everyone's picking the 12-5 upset. I'm not talking about people betting, but people doing a bracket. So I almost want to pick Michigan in the bracket to go 1 or 2 games in. And that way, it's like if you're 50-50 on it anyway, just don't pick the side that everybody else is. That's the way I'm looking at it from a bracket perspective. But, yeah, I'm torn. I think this could even go – I'm going to watch this and see where the money's going to push this down. You're right. There's guys I respect, you respect on UC San Diego. It's what I wanted to play. I saw it at 3.5 minus 120 on Sunday when they opened, and I was like, that can't stay. The books must have just kind of got ahead of this one and actually fell down to 2.5. So the books were right. I was wrong, and I could not get the 3.5, man. So that's life. But here we are. I like the. Let's look at one of these games. This McNeese one versus Clemson. I did play McNeese too because I still think the ACC is pretty weak, and maybe Clemson being the 5 seed is interesting. That Louisville's the 8 and they're 5, but I think I would have flipped those two around. Both teams play slow with some good defense. Clemson has a 3-point and mid-range advantage over McNeese, but there's neither team really rebounds well on defense. They all easy putback. I like the fact that McNeese kind of got blown out last year against Gonzaga. A lot of the same players here, and they remember that. They're not going to want to show up like that again. When they played Alabama, they only lost by 6 to 8 points. They lost to Mississippi State by 3. So I like the fact that they stepped up against good competition already. So I kind of think they can hang. So that's why I played McNeese, the plus the 7.5 too, Matt.
McNeese last year got blown out of the water right away. No chance. Trendy upset pick. I feel like, maybe we were a year too soon on the Cowboys. Anybody who played them last year. I can't remember if I bet McNeese last year or not. I can't recall. But I know that this McNeese team, I believe, is better suited to pull off an upset like that or stick in the game. Will Wade lined up a tougher non-conference, played Alabama, Mississippi State, pretty tight games. Will Wade's a Clemson graduate, by the way. What's kind of a interesting sidebar to this game is a Brad Brownell, the Clemson coach. I don't know if he's going to get the Indiana job. At first I thought he was because Brownell's from Indiana. That would be a job he'd leave Clemson for. And I thought Indiana wanted him. Apparently, Indiana's getting DeVries from West Virginia. That's what it looks like today. I thought he was going to go to Iowa. So now maybe Ben McCollum from Drake is going to go to Iowa. But if that Clemson job opened, Will Wade, I thought, could have been coaching against Clemson in the first round and then been the Clemson coach next week. if Brownell had left for Indiana. But I like Will Wade a lot. I think he's going to have his team ready to play in this game. That's the bottom line. And you can't be scared of McNeese getting blown out last year, because that doesn't mean it's going to happen this year. And I know that Clemson made a run to the Elite Eight last year, finally got Brownell over the hump. Chase Hunter, the guards back, Ian Shiflin. I like this Clemson team. But you're asking Clemson to cover 7.5 against a capable opponent. And I think, a lot of times what you got to factor into this too, the pressure when the underdog hangs around and you get into the second half, there's a lot of pressure on the favorites in these games, because nobody wants to choke and be the upset victim in the first round. And then in the arena, all the fans start pulling for the underdog. And the longer these underdogs hang around, the more pressure mounts on the favored teams. And that's why you do see a lot of upsets or close calls in the first and second round of this tournament. I think McNeese, unlike last year, is capable of pulling it off. What I'm a little bit concerned about, I wonder if High Point this year is like McNeese last year, because High Point's becoming a trendy upset pick too, and maybe Purdue just blows High Point out of the water because it's a giant class difference. I got to stick with what I see. I see a tired Purdue team with a point guard who's been playing 40 minutes a game and is completely worn down and doesn't have a lot of depth and a lot of scorers around him, and Purdue's 3-6 in the last 9 games. I think this Purdue team's almost running on an empty gas tank. So maybe hopefully we get them both, but I think we at least get 1 out of 2 there, talking about McNeese and High Point. I think there's a decent chance we get them both.
I do too. I sprinkle a little money line too. This is very highly variable situations here. Purdue has been ice cold. What I said on the show on Sunday night. I said, I think last year was an exception of Purdue. Maybe with Zach Edey, and you got to go back to fading them right away. So we'll see. And what you said about my Badgers, I don't even know what the hell to do with them. I think if Tanji's going to be thinking about his shooting all week long, maybe they do have a big week. And Wisconsin's a good survivor pick, maybe not necessarily cover the spread because they choke away spreads. Or maybe that's, you get rid of Wisconsin right away in survivor, right? And then so you don't have to bother with them again. Yeah, because BYU's probably winning that region in Denver is what I'm thinking too. And I grabbed High Point at 8.5 because I saw it coming down, and I think that's going to get down to 7 or so, and I can make a decision again if I want, and kind of deal from there. So one more real quick one before I ask you Friday. I took Tennessee and I laid it. I laid -18.5 for Tennessee. This is in Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky. It's a home game really for Tennessee. They're only a couple hundred miles away, if that even. They pounded the children of the poor in the non-conference pretty bad. Looking at those scores, you see a lot of double digits by a lot, not just 10-point wins. You see some 30-point wins in there. I do not see why it's not going to happen again. Wofford, they might not even score 50 points in this game. If there's a prop to see which team doesn't score or scores the least amount in the tournament, I would look at Wofford. And I also noticed that Wofford lost to Duke by over 50 points when they played at Duke, and it's Duke, but 50-some points this year. I laid it with Tennessee because I feel like this should be in the 20s easily.
Yeah, I don't play big favorites, so I'm probably the wrong one to ask about this, especially Tennessee playing all those, tough SEC tournament games. You're coming off a SEC tournament run to the title game. You put so much into that. You got a quick turnaround and face an opponent that your players are probably going to take lightly. And Wofford, I do think that you're probably going to see an ugly, low-scoring type of game because I would think that Tennessee's going to be a little bit tired coming into this. Wofford ranks 333 in tempo, very slow team. Tennessee's going to grind them down on the defensive end. I'm not playing the dog here. I did not consider it, so I guess I'll give you that answer. But I would maybe look at the under too because I think Tennessee's defense is probably going to, just at a slow pace like that, Tennessee's just going to grind this team down and put them away. I might look at the under.
No, fair enough. And I'm on Georgia 6.5 as well. I think you mentioned that one. I'm not sure if you did.
Yes.
I thought you mentioned. Yeah, because I'm on them as well because I think their SEC schedule was just as hard as the best teams playing. They've proven it against some of the best teams in Gonzaga. I think once they got by St. Mary's and finally got that monkey off their back, they let down a little bit in the first game. So I like Georgia there and possibly to win outright. Friday games, you got some great plays on Friday as well. Why don't you run down your games and we'll pick apart a couple of them.
Yeah, also you got to look at the locations and where these are being played. By the way, BYU, Wisconsin are playing in Denver at altitude, and I think that's a negative for the Badgers, and it should be a positive for BYU, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to Friday. I played UConn minus 190 against Oklahoma. Didn't feel great about laying the 4.5, but again, I don't think Oklahoma even deserves to be a 9 seed here. A team that was 6-12 in the SEC and didn't look like it was going to make the tournament 2 weeks ago. Danny Hurley, I don't think is going out like that after going 12-0 straight up in ATS the last 2 years. Plus, he's going to be angry. I think I like these teams that lose in the conference tournaments a little bit too. Auburn kind of fits that. UConn fits that. They're going to come in playing with a little bit more of an edge this week because they did lose in the conference tournament last week. UConn, money line. I'm not involved yet in the New Mexico Marquette game. I did take Bryant plus 17.5 against Michigan State. That Bryant team is better than a lot of people think. Bigger and better than a lot of people think. Not involved in Vandy St. Mary's yet. I did take Lipscomb plus 14.5 against Iowa State. Keyshawn Gilbert, Cyclones' number 2 scorer, really good guard, is out for the tournament. So I think Lipscomb can definitely hang around there, if not pull off a stunner. Who knows? I'm debating taking Troy plus 11. I might take Troy plus 11, or looks like 11.5 is out there against Kentucky, but I have not done that yet for the record. I have not yet played Liberty plus 7.5 against Oregon, but it's on my list of things to do possibly. Akron plus 14 I did play, and Grand Canyon plus 10.5 I did play.
I was close on Akron. Can you tell me? It's 14.5. It's pretty big. Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle, Washington. Arizona. What I wrote is that Caleb Love is so inconsistent. One minute he looks like an NBA player, the next he looks like he's hurting a team. Dude, that Arizona plus 6.5, plus 7. No, I had plus 7.5 loss. Was really brutal on Sunday or on Saturday when that last foul came in. That just did not need to happen. And plus they were winning most of that game, or a lot of it anyway. Akron's defense worries me some, ranking 163rd in efficiency, but maybe that's just because they've been on such a tear. It's like if I'm up by 10 points and there's 5 minutes left, I'm not pressing hard. I think that people get caught up with those numbers a little too much. I think Akron's defense is better than one's 163rd because of if a team's just constantly winning, it's like they're not going to give full efforts. So I was close to Akron plus 14.5. Why don't you let us know a little bit more about that?
Akron's a 28-win team that plays at a fast pace, and they got 3-point shooters too. So I feel like in the tournament, the teams that are going to pull the upsets are the teams we're going to see knocking down threes and bunches, right? And you gain a lot of momentum when that happens. And it's a high-scoring team that shoots threes and averages 10.7 3-point makes per game. So that's among the best in the country. I think Akron can hang with Arizona here. And like you said about Caleb Love, I don't think he's an NBA player. I think he's a G League player. He's way too inconsistent. He'll shoot 2 for 15 in one game against Iowa State and come back and, make shoot a little bit better. Maybe let's say 7 for 12 the next game against Kansas or something like that. 7 for 15. I've seen way too many bad games out of Caleb Love. Way too many bad shooting games. And you can't trust a team that's going to follow a guard like that who's so wildly inconsistent. So Tommy Lloyd, by the way, has not had much success in the tournament, Kiev. You look at records, it's funny. A lot of people think Matt Painter is not a great tournament coach. Painter, I think, is 23-14 against the spread in the tournament. I believe Tommy Lloyd is like 5 games under 500. Tommy Lloyd's had a tough time of it in the tournament. Arizona has been one of those teams that tends to flop early in the tournament too. So I don't fully trust Akron, but hey, when you got a 28-win team that makes almost 11 threes per game, that's a team that's got upset potential and you're getting 14.5 points. So that's why I played it.
Well, there you go, man. They can definitely catch up then. Yeah, I'm going to be on it too. You talked me into it. I'll grab Akron plus the 14.5. I think that could go down too a little bit. I just don't see a lot of love for Arizona at this high of a number. And I did watch Akron's finals, and they did pretty good. And it's funny you mentioned Liberty. My problem was the Oregon being at home, but it's already factored into the line. And if you look at Liberty,
Yeah.
they're a great away from home team. The Flames rank 11th in home road splits on the Haslametric. So they actually perform quite well on the home. They're going to have a 3-point advantage, ranking third in adjusted 3-point percentage on Haslametrics. That's kind of where Oregon doesn't defend as well, ranking 45th defending it. I mean, the question I have is, where's the public going to take this? Are they they're going to be all, liquored up? It's Friday night, it's the end of the tournament games, Matt. They're trying to get their money back, or they're trying to bet one more. Are they going to bet the Oregon side and then this is going to go up, or are they going to take the dog? I'm trying to think, do I wait and get a better number, or is that not going to happen?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know which way that one's going to go. Let's see. That is, like you said, the late game on Friday night. I feel like the public's going to play the favorite, which is typically what happens. I don't know if that means you'll get 8 or not, because I think you're going to have enough sharp resistance. Look, the bookmakers are not idiots, and they got the sharps betting the dog and the public betting the favorite. So that number's not going to move too much. They're not going to throw an 8 up there. Maybe you get a square book that throws 8 up there, and that's what you got to look for, right? So that's why you have to have multiple outs. I don't think you'll see that at Circa. In fact, right now, I see DraftKings at 7.5 and Circa at 7. So if you're waiting for an 8, you're probably going to get it from DraftKings, right?
I guess so. We'll have to get it from DraftKings if we're waiting for that. But speaking of books, our buddy Tony says Derek said neither of us are welcome if we bet UC San Diego. So it's kind of a tell of what's going on over at the Circa. Probably from a future perspective is what I'm guessing, Matt.
We got Tony Gordon checking in today, huh? All right. I think Tony Gordon is firing on March Madness as well, Derbify. I saw him tweeting about it today. I haven't heard much out of him. His good best friend, Scott Pritchard, was on vacation, I think, in Thailand. I thought maybe Tony went with him, because I hadn't heard from him for a while.
He'll be there next week, I believe. He texted me. He was going to be there for opening day. So there you go.
Is that right? Okay.
Tony, chime in if that's still right, man. But apparently we can't bet UC San Diego according to Derek. So maybe Derek's chiming in over there as well. So, what's interesting about Bryant versus Michigan State, I like the under a little bit, and especially from the first half perspective. Neither team shoots a lot of threes. Now, when Bryant played top 100 teams in the non-conference, they got absolutely killed. Maybe they keep up with Michigan State because they got better, which teams are allowed to get better, is what we always say. But from an under perspective, I think that both teams could have some cold feet, even though it's a night game. I like the under. It's 152.5. That's really high for a Michigan State game that could end up in a blowout. And if it's close, I feel like it's because neither are scoring a lot, Matt.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I don't have the strongest of opinions on that game. I feel like Michigan State is good. That's not a team that wins by big margins in a lot of games. Spartans don't blow out many opponents. And I'll say another thing was I really don't go back and look at results from November and December too often when you're trying to handicap. I know that we don't have a lot of data points to go by for some of these small conference teams because they don't step up in class and face bigger opponents too often. So we have to go back and look, hey, how did McNeese do against Alabama, against Mississippi State? But like you said, these teams can be totally different in March than they were in November and December. So I'm not going to make too much of that. And I did watch Tom Izzo press conference where he's talking about Bryant. I know it's coach speak, but Izzo looks concerned that he thinks his team can give his Spartans some trouble. I think Bryant can give Spartans a little bit of trouble. One thing we have to point out here too, and it's worth talking about. If you're playing a lot of dogs, sometimes you want to split your unit half in the first half, half for the game, or you definitely want to play some on the first half too. How many times, Kiev, do you see a dog that's right there at halftime or might have a 1.2 point lead and then gets its doors blown off in the second half? So you got to consider playing some first half stuff on some of these dogs too.
All the time. It's a massive point you made because, that's happened to me when I had Creighton and Arizona against the better teams. But they're looking pretty good at half. So is Louisville. Louisville looking pretty good at half too. So yeah, I mean, why would you? If you kind of believe in them in the first half too. It's and you lessen your risk, I think, because you're going to bet the full unit anyway, and then put half in the first half, half in the second, especially in the tournament atmosphere where they could choke and the better team just takes control and doesn't miss. That's what we see so much in the NCAA tournament. So that is a wonderful point. And that brings me to another play that I'm making, and maybe this will be the last one we talk about because you got to go. Robert Morris first half plus 60 plus 13.5. It's a massive spread. But Alabama, man, they're fast paced, but I think they just put it on the second half. I don't like the 22.5. But I mean, if you're looking at a first half that's 13.5, I think that there's a lot better chance that Robert Morris covers in the first half, And I watched that Robert Morris play in the Horizon, man. The Horizon has a fantastic ATS record in the NCAA tournament. They're not the worst three-point shooting team either in the nation. Late they get blown out, maybe. The first half, I'll take 13.5.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk you off that one. Alabama's a team of high variance, right? Volatile team. If they're not hitting the threes, Alabama can look pretty bad at times. Crimson Tide get a hop from three, they can look unbeatable. So maybe you see the unbeatable team show up in the first half or the second half, but not for 40 minutes. So that's something to keep an eye on. I bet I think the first futures bet I made last year was Alabama at 20-1 because I did not think Mark Sears was going to enter the NBA draft. He's a small guard. He was going to be a second-round draft pick. There's no way you enter the draft when you're going to go in the second round and you can come back to Alabama and make, $1.5 million or whatever you're making in NIL. It's smarter to stay in school. So I bet Alabama 20-1, just guessing that Sears was going to stay. I love that bet at the time. I don't like it so much now. Alabama has not looked so sharp. Bama has not looked so sharp. And I'm obviously concerned about that team's tournament fate. Speaking of futures bets, I love the St. John's bet. That was probably the second one I made at 80-1 last spring or summer. Florida is one of the more recent ones I made at 10-1. I bet Duke right before the season, maybe 2 weeks before the season at 12-1. Wow. So those are all live. I've got two more that are dead. I've got two that are dead. A lot of people don't talk about their dead futures, right? But you have to factor this in, and they all count. I got Kansas at 16-1, no shot. And I've got Gonzaga at 27-1 and no shot with the Zags. So Kansas and Gonzaga are dead, but we got four live ones going. Oh, you know what? I played Wisconsin at 50. I played Wisconsin at 50 or 60-1. I almost forgot about this about a month ago. And I like that bet a lot at the time, but the Badgers feel like they're kind of running out of steam too, right?
Yes, and I have Wisconsin 120-1 that I made a month and a half ago or so, and yeah, they're probably deadly. I have a little Final Four on everything too. I got Louisville Final Four 20-1, but I got Louisville to win it 80-1. I have Wisconsin the same thing. I got Alabama at 3-1 to make Final Four, 14-1 to win it all. We talked about Alabama last time you were on the show, but the rest are, I mean, UConn a little bit too, and they're dead. I have Oregon, they're dead. I do have Michigan, who's probably dead, even though they're in the Auburn side. So at least I don't have anybody that's not in the tournament. Yes, I have Texas Tech also 40-1, which I think is still live. And yeah, everybody at least I have it in. So if I want to start hedging, I could at some point, but I'm not going to start hedging until the Sweet 16. And unless one of these guys really cash for me, it's probably going to be a losing year for those futures. It wasn't for conference futures. I did well last week, but for these futures itself. Well, that brings us to some beer bet bangers then, man. You did some, I believe you took some seed type props or maybe total for conferences, or what do you have for us for some of those props for the NCAA tournament?
I'm not sure what the definition of beer bet bangers are, but I'll tell you, let's see, I played, I'll tell you what other props I played for the tournament. Duke to win the East at minus 120. Circa's got minus 110 right now. Didn't get the best number there. I played Auburn basically to win its region over 3.5 wins at plus 110. I played a 13 seed to win a game And I found that I was shopping around. I finally found minus 125. That was the best I could do on that. But I took the points with all of the 13 seeds in their first round games too. I think there's a good chance one of them were going to pull the upset. I played the Big Ten under 11.5 total tournament wins. When I went through my bracket, I've got the Big Ten winning a total of 9 games, maybe 10. So I got a little bit to play with there under 11.5. And I also played St. John's over 2.5 tournament wins of plus 175. Which basically means St. John's is probably going to have to beat Texas Tech in the Sweet 16. So
Yeah.
I would say it's not a bad bet from the perspective of St. John's should get to the Sweet 16. I'd be really stunned if the Johnnies don't. And then you got the Texas Tech matchup, and you basically got St. John's plus 175 in your hands. So we'll see what else. I thought there was one more. Anyway, there might have been a couple more, but that's pretty much it. If you want long shots for the beer bet bangers, I can tell you I got 3 bets for the Masters if you care about that.
I do care about that. I'd love to hear it.
About a month from now, I'm going to get the golf clubs out of the closet and start playing for the first time since August. I bet Justin Rose at 125 to 1. I bet Joaquin Neiman at 42 to 1. And just bet Jordan Spieth at circa 37 to 1. So I've only got 3 so far. Rose 125, Neiman 42, and Spieth 37. So if you were asking for long shots, that's all I've got.
That's the definition.
Out in the long shot.
That's the definition of beer bet bangers, is those big long shots. But you know what? You can. It's like it's anything really. You know, I took if you add up the seeds, and the final 4, it's under 11.5, and I laid minus 150 on that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like it. I don't see a lot of opportunity where it's not going to be 2 1 seeds and maybe a 2 or 3 or something. And I just think the under 11.5, I don't see anybody above 3 seeds making it, man. I don't. And I like that play a lot. It's on DK right now at minus 150. And if you want to get real cute, you can say, I bet just like literally beer money on some of the seeds to make the final 4. I have all 4 final 1 seeds, so it's 16 to 1. And I also took 6. So if you add them up, they go to 6 at 11 to 1. Probably losing bets. That's why they're beer bet bangers. But it's something to have a little fun with. And I looked to see if I could do a massive money line rollover, but unfortunately, some of these one seeds play at the same time, because if I could just jump from one game to another, first of all, I'd probably be miserable all day doing money line rollovers and keeping up with it.
Right.
But I was thinking, I'm sure that pays more than 16 to 1, but I don't think I could get it in, man. But those are some long shots that I like. I kind of like Ole Miss to get to the Sweet 16 too at plus 225. I think they have a pretty easy road with Iowa State's injuries too. So I think me and you are kind of on the same side of that one, Matt.
Sounds good
Well,
to me. You know, a lot of times you'll hear guys talk about, well, you get a better number if you do all the money line rollovers. Hey, there's so much stuff going on this time of year. You got so many bets flying that sometimes it's easier to bet the future. And you might miss the money line rollover, forget to do it before a game starts, or you just sometimes it's more convenient to make the futures bet. And a lot of times the guys you hear criticizing those who don't do the money line rollovers are guys who don't bet at all. So just bet however the hell you want to bet it, and don't listen to the people criticizing you. If you have time to do the money line rollovers and all that, that's great. If you don't listen to the dumbasses who are out there criticizing everybody on Twitter, because I'm telling you, 4 out of 5 of those people don't even bet anyway.
Well, how did the Ohio State money line rollover work out for people that did that and not took the 7-8 to 1 future
exactly.
a couple weeks before that? It sure lost. And I think Florida's money line rollover wasn't plus 340 either in the SEC tournament, as they were pretty dang big favorites going through the whole thing. So great stuff, Matt. Obviously,
so the money line rollover does not always work out. It does not. You don't always get the advantage by doing the money line rollover either. You're right about that, because I had Florida in the SEC tournament too.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really happy that I went that direction on that one, Matt. But hey, it would be a great direction if people follow you and look at these awesome plays that you have and the great content you put out. Where could our listeners get your great information and media?
You know, actually, just go to vsin.com, vsin.com. We got a bunch. I think everything's free up there now. You can check out all the content, see if you like it. You know, we got 24/7 video access. It's kind of like the ESPN of sports betting, except we don't have all the bullshit that ESPN's got on all the crappy talk shows. So check that out and follow on Twitter at @VSignLive. It's always great to talk with you. Best of luck to everybody in the tournament because we're going to need some luck this week and next week.
We all will, Matt. Best of luck to you. We'll be talking soon.
Okay, you bet. Thanks.